In terms of the Black community, for me, I've only been in Montreal for 3 years, and I realized that being here, you learn um, about. I was able to learn about myself and about my history and my culture and other cultures. My first year here was very difficult for me. Um, I came here with nobody. I came here by myself. I came from Toronto by myself. Um, and I kind of had to, I was surrounded by a bunch of people who I had nothing in common with. And it was challenging because I didn't feel like myself. I felt lost. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. I attend Concordia University. I was on the women's rugby team, and I was just mimicking a life that didn't belong to me, and it put me in a spot where I was just like, hey, no, I need to really find myself. And then I started getting involved in different Black organizations and in the Black community, and I was able to surround myself with people from who come from, like, the Caribbean, or people who come from Africa. And it started to feel so good because I started to find people that I could actually relate to. I started to find people who I could actually be myself to. And that was good until I started to feel distant from certain groups. I'm Caribbean, come from a Caribbean background. So for me, I was raised in a very Jamaican household. I was raised to be very independent. I was raised to, there's certain things that I saw, there's certain things that happened, there's certain things within my culture that I grew up around. And that was it for me. That's what I know. So finding people who come from the Caribbean as well, it was like, it was a click. I was able to just understand, even though the islands are different, I was able to kind of understand, right? And then being here in Montreal, I've met a lot of African people who come from Africa, because, in terms of the Black community here, I find that it's very, like, Africans are very dominant here in terms of the Black people that are here. You have your Haitians, you have just a whole bunch of international people that's coming from Africa, coming from the Caribbean. For me, I started to find or see differences between the two, between those who come from Africa and those who come from the Caribbean. And I feel like that's kind of separated, I feel like that separates us as Blacks, because one thing we all have in common is the fact that we're all Black. But another thing is just the different thing what makes us different is that some of us identify as, as just African American. Some of us identify as Canadian. Some of us identify as, Caribbean, African. And then you think about it and you think, okay, like, we have all these people who come from different places. And you would think we would all want to kind of come together and try to understand how we grew up. But that's just in Montreal. I don't feel like that's how it is. I feel like we're so used to sticking to what makes us feel comfortable that we don't find the need or the time to kind of explore different cultures. You find someone who comes from the Caribbean, you stick with them because it's like they understand you. Or you find someone who comes from West Africa and you stick with them because they understand you, they understand the West African life. And it's unsettling because it's just, you want to be able to learn about other cultures and your history. You know, we're black people. All our ancestors started in Africa. That's where it all started. And then it's like to come here and be like, oh yeah, like just to kind of separate ourselves. It's like we've already been separated. We've already been taken. Like our ancestors have already been taken from that place, and then we've been placed anywhere else. And it's like we should be coming together as a community to fight for ourselves. Like we're in a time where being, especially for black women, we're in a time where being a black woman is so powerful because we're now realizing we're making it more known of our worth. And black people, like I feel like that's what we need to do. We just need to let people know that we are here. And we are unique, and being black is beautiful. And I think I think the problem with the Montreal community here is that everything is distant, and there's not a place for black people to kind of just come together and gather and just see different things and be like, oh, that's that originated in this country, that originated, it's just like people don't really understand. Even black people don't even know where certain things originated from or where they originated from. And it's just like, we have cultural differences, but without forgetting where we come from and without forgetting our culture, we should be able to come together and try to understand other cultures, right? And we shouldn't be passing stereotypes or judgment. The Montreal community here, I feel, is very distant, and I feel that we kind of stick to what makes us comfortable, and we stick to what we know. We don't really try to take the time to understand or explore different cultures or a different way of being. And then it's kind of just, that's it. It's like you have your friend group, you stay in your friend group. These are my people. That's all I need. I don't need to be with all these other people. And it has nothing to do with like, just so I don't need to be with all these, just to become stronger as black people as a whole, we need to come together. We need to stand by one another. We need to uplift each other, because we're fighting for our voices to be heard, but at the same time, we're bringing each other down. And it's so sad because we all come from different places, and we all our cultures are so beautiful, and they have so much to them that it's just so sad that people don't take the time to, or feel that it's important to understand the history, or take the time to understand someone else's culture, or how someone else grew up, or how someone else lived. And I feel like, we're here, we're in Canada, we're in Montreal, Quebec. We have a language barrier, we have French, we have English. We should come together. Those who don't know how to speak French, we should try to teach them how to speak French. Those who don't speak English well, we should try to teach them how to speak English. We should be able to have these services offered for black people. We should be able to find places, find restaurants, find hair stores, find grocery stores, find art stores, find clothing stores that have to do with our culture. But we don't have that here in Montreal. We don't have like a black market that's just for us, just a home, somewhere where we can call home. And I think that's why, on a certain level, we're very distant from one another. Me, I personally think that the problem, the issue here is just that we just don't know the history, especially how blacks were treated here in Montreal, right? Especially in Canada. Canada likes to pride itself over being very diverse and very multicultural, where, especially in Montreal, it's not a diverse place. It's not multicultural. It leaves out things that need or that are important, especially to the black community. You know, it's like we have police brutality here. We have discrimination here. We have these different things here. And then looking outside, being a black person, looking outside and being like, why is this happening to us? Why is this happening to our community? And then it's like, what are we doing to change it? Right? It's like, you're pro-black, but what are you doing to help the community? What are you doing to express how you feel? What are your demands? And I think that's the problem here in Montreal, is that we aren't working hard enough to be acknowledged and to be respected, right? And it's come to a point where we have earned that respect. We have a right to that respect. And it starts with us. It truly starts with us. We need to start uplifting each other. We need to start supporting each other. We need to be able to go to a black market or a black owned business and be able to buy something without asking for a discount or without asking for a freebie or any of that stuff. It's like we always want less. We always go to people like, but I know this person, so it's okay, like, maybe you can give me a discount. No, we're supposed to support one another, right? We're trying to make a living for ourselves. But we're so prone to just asking for all these handouts, and it's wrong. And we need to start supporting each other. We need to start educating each other. We need to be more liberated in terms of coming together as a black community, as black people, and fighting for what is right and what we deserve. And I feel like Montreal will start to feel like home for people, and will start to make people feel comfortable because they're in a place where there's a large community of different black people that come from different places in the world, that have different cultures, who grew up in a different way and are still able to express themselves culturally and as individuals, but together as well. And I think that's important in any part of the world, because it's just being able to being stuck mimicking a life that doesn't belong to you, or just being stuck in a comfort zone, somewhere where you're comfortable. There's no growth. You're not growing. You're sticking to what you know, and you're just making your way with that. And I feel like it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I also feel that there's so much more in this world, and there's so much beauty in being a black person and coming from Africa, or coming from the Caribbean, or coming from the States, or coming from wherever you come from. You know, I feel like we need to all celebrate that, celebrate differences, celebrate similarities, come together, you know, be able to go to support our Montreal-based black artists, right? There's so many of them out there, and it's like sometimes people don't even know who they are, and it's just like we need to uplift them, be like, yeah, you can do it, you know. And it's like I feel that Montreal needs to grow, especially the blacks. Like, we need to grow with it, you know, straight down from the 1960s, where race was very visual in Montreal, the problem of race, with the computer school riot that happened at Concordia University and how blacks were treated there, right? And it's so sad that not even a lot of people even know about that situation. It's kind of just like it's a part of our history, and it's like it's one thing to know, the African history, right? But you're here. You're in Canada. You might not be a Canadian citizen, but this is where you're living. This is your home for now. And to not know the history here, that's also a problem. It's kind of just like, oh, it had nothing to do with me, so it 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 doesn't really bother me, or it doesn't affect me. In the long run, it does, because you're here, especially as a university student. I'm here. I'm studying in school. I'm making a life for myself here. I'm going. Doesn't matter if I decide to go to the Caribbean, or if I decide to go to Africa, or if I decide to go wherever else in the world, right? I'm leaving this place. I have a life here that I'm gonna be leaving behind, and I want to be able to leave and just know that I did something, and I was able to support and help the Black community, right? Because I want to see my friends go far. I want to see my people go far. I want to uplift my people. I want to rejoice when we succeed, when Black people succeed. It's such a beautiful thing. When Black people come together, it can be such a beautiful thing. And I think we just need to have the right mindset, and we just need to be positive and just look at it and fight for what we believe we deserve, right? We need to know our worth in terms of being Black individuals, and to just sit and be like, oh, I already have my people here, so it's just very close-minded. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to stick with the people that you know and that you're comfortable with. Like, keep your circle small, of course, but doesn't mean that it stops you from supporting other Black people, or uh, helping the community grow. And just, I'm sure that we would love to have, I would love to have, like, a little, like, Black market where it's like I can just find, like, some, like, hair stuff, or like jewelry, or like things like that, like, or be able to, like, find art or clothing here that's not, like, that I could put in my home, that I could wear. It feels good to know where these things are, and to know that we have these options available to us, and that we don't go to these corporate food chains and spend all our money, give all our money to the rich white man, and forget about our own people. I think we need to be able to look at ourselves and reflect and be like, I want to do better. I deserve to do better, be better. And I think that it'll help the Black community here in Montreal. And I think, just a step at a time. Every day is a new day. Every day is a day for us to make a difference, make a change.